All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something that could genuinely change how we all talk to each other across the entire planet. We are looking at a brand new AI that's aiming to completely tear down language barriers and do it in real time.
You've been there, right? That super awkward, painful pause in a conversation while you're fumbling with a translation app, or you get a translation that's just clunky and weird and completely unnatural. It's that moment when a real, flowing conversation just hits a brick wall. And honestly, getting this right, getting smooth, human-like translation has been one of the biggest mountains for tech to climb.
And look, that's not just me saying it. The experts in this field, the researchers themselves, call simultaneous interpretation, or SI for short, one of the most daunting frontiers for AI. It's not just about swapping words from one language to another. No, it's about keeping the meaning, the timing, even the emotion and personality of the speaker, all while happening in a split second. It's incredibly hard.
So, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to unpack exactly why this problem is so tough to crack. Then, we'll introduce the new AI that's built to solve it. We'll pop the hood and see how it's trained, which is super interesting. And then we'll check out the test results. And finally, we'll talk about what this all means for the future of, well, conversation itself. Let's get into it.
Okay, so first things first, let's really get to the heart of the problem. Why has creating a smooth, instantaneous AI interpreter been such a massive headache for so long?
Well, a lot of the traditional systems are just clunky. They work like a slow, old-fashioned assembly line. It's called a cascaded system. See, one part has to listen and recognize the speech. Then it passes that text to a totally separate part for translation. Then that part hands it off to a third part to actually speak it out loud. The problem is, a tiny mistake at the beginning creates a domino effect that just ruins the final output. This whole process is also really slow, which leads to those long, awkward silences. And if more than one person is talking, forget about it. It just gets confused.
And this is exactly where our main subject comes into the picture. It's a new system from ByteDance's AI research team, and it's called Seed-LiveInterpret 2.0. The whole point of it was to build something from scratch that avoids all those old problems.
So the folks behind this are from ByteDance Seed. They're a team that's been doing a ton of work on the cutting edge of AI for speech and language. They're the ones who decided to take on this so-called daunting frontier.
And here is the secret sauce. It's all about the architecture, which they call a duplex speech-to-speech framework. Now, instead of that slow, clunky assembly line we talked about, this is one single unified system. Think of it like a single brain that can listen and speak, or rather understand and translate, at the exact same time. That unified design, that is a total game changer. So here's what that looks like in a real conversation. Picture two people talking, each in a different language. The AI is constantly listening to both of them, but it doesn't wait for them to finish their sentence. The second it has just enough of a phrase to understand the meaning, it starts generating the translation. It's interpreting on the fly, which is what keeps the conversation moving naturally.
Okay, let's pop the hood for a second, because this is the core of it. The whole system is built on a really powerful large language model from their Seed family. To that foundation, they added a special audio encoder. You can think of this as giving the AI a pair of ears that are expertly trained to process live streaming sound. This lets it generate both the translated text and the audio for that text at the same time. The absolute key here, though, is that it's all one unified framework. One model handles everything. That's what kills the delay and stops those errors from piling up.
But you know, having a brilliant architecture is only half the story. How do you actually teach an AI the subtle art of a real, fast-paced conversation? Well, the answer is in a pretty unique training process. It's basically a three-stage boot camp. First, the model gets this massive broad education. It chews through almost 100 billion tokens of audio and text data just to learn the fundamentals of language. Then it moves to fine-tuning, where it learns from high-quality, human-labeled data to pick up the specific skills an interpreter needs. But this final stage, this is the really clever bit. It uses reinforcement learning to teach the AI how to balance the two most critical things, speed and accuracy. And that reinforcement learning is powered by this really smart dual reward system. Think of it like you're a basketball coach. The single-turn rewards are like you correcting a player's individual dribble. You're giving instant, specific feedback on one little action. But the multi-turn rewards, that's like you looking at the final score of the game, judging the overall quality and flow of the entire performance. To get a truly great player, you absolutely need both. Now, this kind of training is tricky.
The researchers found that if you only reward the AI for being fast, it starts reward hacking. It gets clever. It learns to cheat by spitting out super short, incomplete answers just to get its reward quickly. So to fix this, they had to add a penalty for bad translations, forcing the AI to learn how to be both fast and good.
Okay, so the architecture is smart, and the training sounds intense, but does any of it actually work in the real world? Let's check out how it performed when they put it to the test. So human testers measured something called the Valid Information Proportion, or VIP score. Basically, it's a measure of how much of the original meaning actually makes it through the translation. Seed-LiveInterpret 2.0 scored almost an 80. That means most of the important information was preserved. And you can see how it just blows the competition out of the water here, with one other system only getting about 22% of the original meaning across.
But here it is. This is the jaw-dropper, the latency. A major commercial system they tested had an average delay of over 48 seconds. Can you imagine that? Waiting almost a full minute for a translation to catch up. It's unusable. In the exact same test, Seed-LiveInterpret 2.0's average delay was just over 5 seconds. That is a night and day difference.
What this all boils down to is a nearly 70% reduction in that average latency compared to other systems. In real-world terms, that means a frustrating 10-second delay becomes a much more natural 3 seconds. And that is the difference between a tool that constantly interrupts a conversation and one that actually enables it.
So these results, they really point to a future where translation isn't just about swapping words anymore. It's about creating genuine, real-time connection. And there's one last feature that really drives that point out.
And if all of that wasn't cool enough, check this out. It can actually clone the speaker's voice. So the system doesn't just translate your words into some generic robotic voice. It speaks the translation in a voice that sounds like you. According to the paper, it's the only system in their comparison that can pull this off in real time. It means your vocal identity stays with you, even across different languages, which makes the whole thing feel so much more personal.
So all of this leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. With tech like this just around the corner, what happens? What happens to global business, to travel, to our personal relationships, when language stops being a true barrier and becomes just a minor detail that an AI handles for us instantly? It's a pretty exciting future to think about. That's all for this explainer. Thanks for joining me.